today I have the privilege of talking with Ralph. He's an expert helping leaders to overcome fibromialgia and ankylosing spondylitis. He has been 12 years helping people with AS, and today we have the honor of talking with him. I have talked with Ralph before. Actually, last time we were talking, I think, for 3 hours or 3 hours and a half or something like that. So it was a very long call. And he's such a master of the topic, probably one of the best in the planet. So, first of all, thank you, Ralph, for being here. And I would like to start by making you 4 questions that I do to everyone. And you will have to answer these questions only using a maximum of 3 words. Are you ready? Super. The first one: how much pain did you have last year from AS from 0 to 10?
0.
Can you eat a pizza without having pain the next day?
I had pizza last night.
Wow. Uh, how long can you be sitting on a chair without, or in a sofa without having pain?
Forever.
And what medication are you taking now?
0.
Amazing, amazing. That's why you are here, because you are not only helping others to overcome AS, but you did it yourself. So let's understand better how you did it to yourself and how you are helping others to achieve the same. So the first thing, before we get into your method and your techniques and all your insights about how to overcome AS, I would like to know more about your story. When you were diagnosed with AS, how is your story around AS when it appears for the first time in your life? How long you were in pain? Tell me a little bit about your beginning.
The first time that I had the very first flare up was when I was 12 years old. This was like around the year 2000, I would say, right before 9/11. And I was in the hospital for a week. And doctors were doing MRIs, X-rays, testing, everything, trying to figure out why I was in pain. I thought I was in pain because I was playing tag the day before, and I thought I pulled a muscle or something. But I spent a week in a hospital, and that's when the doctors told my dad, it looks like he has arthritis. And my dad says to the doctor, oh yeah, his mom has arthritis. And I'm just there in the hospital bed with an IV in my arm. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't even know what's going on. I was completely clueless. Then after that, it disappeared. And at the age of 15, when I was in high school, freshman, going sophomore year in high school, it started to come and go, come and go, come and go. My right knee will swell up. I would have pain in the buttocks. And it was always something going on. At the time, I thought I was injured. So I was taking a lot of painkillers and, just fighting through it. I lived with my dad. It was just him, single father. And he didn't really have time to take me to the hospital or care for me or anything like that. So I just kind of like try to figure it out on my own. Then around the age of 16 or so, I started doing physical therapy. I got my knee drained. The doctors were, starting to notice that there was something serious going on. And the physical therapist was the one that showed me a picture on the internet. He says, look, this is what we think you have. We don't have a diagnosis yet, but we think you have this.
And he did that by showing you a picture in the internet of AS?
No, he showed me like photos of people like hunched over and stuff.
Wow. What a nice beginning.
Like and I was clueless. Yeah. Wow. But that was the first time I ever heard the word AS. And I was just clueless. I was just like, it didn't mean anything to me. But that was the very first time I heard the word ankylosing spondylitis. It was from that gentleman. Then the pain went away. And on the last day of high school, I started dating my wife. And about a year after dating her, so I would say about the year 2007, it came and it did not leave. It was just there every single day, nonstop flare up. It just wouldn't go away. And that's when we started to suspect that there was something serious going on. And then came the financial crisis. I lost my jobs. I had 2 of them. The first one was in the fitness center as a personal trainer. And I had to quit that job because I couldn't even walk. The flare-ups were just getting getting worse. And the other one was a motorcycle dealership, which went out of business because of the financial crisis. And that's when the struggle came. I eventually got evicted. I went fully bankrupt. I ended up homeless for a couple of days. I moved in
Wow.
with my dad, and living in my dad's house is where the healing journey started. That's where I met my mentor, Edward Gauss, who helped me through my healing. My wife was always on top of me. Try this diet. Let's do this yoga. Let's do this. Let's do that. And it was a constant trying to find the solution, mostly from her, because I didn't believe it was incurable, but I just didn't care for it. I didn't really, there was something in me that had given up on myself, and my wife was the one that kept pushing through. So that's my at least the first half of the story. Second
Wow.
half of the story was that I
What
started
year?
to feel
What
better.
year is this? Sorry, what year are we
This
talking
was,
about?
I would say, maybe 2009, 2010, somewhere around
Okay. And
there.
who did you say is your mentor?
Yeah. Edward Gauss.
Edward Gals.
Yeah,
Okay.
Gauss. So he
I will ask
is,
you. I will ask you for the details of this person to see if we can,
yeah, for sure.
if he's alive, like I can talk with him.
Yes, you can. He's alive.
Okay. Okay.
Talking to him is it's a bit of a trip, So
Yeah,
get
it's
ready for
difficult.
it. He has no filter. No. It's just a trip. It's just the way he is, man.
Wow. So this was how you get diagnosed with spondylitis. Also, one question: did you have HLA B27 positive?
Yes.
Okay.
So HLA-B27 positive. My symptoms were bilateral sacroiliitis, and I had calcification in the SI joints and starting to calcify in the lower spine. So if you look at the vertebrae, each disc had like a white color,
Mhm.
which the doctor explained that it was the lower spine was starting to fuse at the time.
Okay. And so this was like your deepest point. I understand. No, how from
Hmm.
here you were able to heal. How was your journey? What were the therapies that you tried? The techniques? How much or how long it took you to heal?
Trying yoga, trying breathing exercises, like physical exercises, stretching, physical therapy. I didn't have money to afford therapy or anything, so I basically had to do it everything myself. I looked for books and everything, and I tried a whole bunch of stuff. But eventually, what threw me over the top was that in 2012, as I was trying different things, um, I went for physical therapy, not physical therapy, a physical examination that I do, with doctors and stuff. And when I was speaking to the doctor said, look, you have to get on biologics because at this rate, this is only going to get worse. And we don't want you to end up in a wheelchair. And my wife was insisting, you need to get on this projects. And they were just pushing. And I'm telling them, look, I'm feeling better with the diet. I'm meditating. I'm doing this. I'm okay. I'm perfectly fine. But they kept insisting.
You
So
were following at this moment like a low starch diet or anti-inflammatory diet or something like that?
yeah, stuff like that. But it was mainly because of my wife, so it wasn't like I was even paying attention to it. So I said, okay, fine. I got on the first step to get on biologics, which was to do a tuberculosis test. So before you get on biologics, you have to do a tuberculosis test, make sure that everything's okay with that. So for me, the tuberculosis test always comes back positive because when I was a baby in the Dominican Republic, we get vaccinated. So
Mhm.
we got vaccinated for tuberculosis, but in the U.S., there is no, at least back then, I don't know, when I was a baby, there was no vaccine in the U.S. for tuberculosis. I don't know if it exists now. I have no idea. But the point is that because of that, I always come back positive. So they put the little bubble in my arm. It got bigger. And the doctor said, okay, there is some type of tuberculosis in your body. So we have to put you on a 9-month trial of antibiotics. And those antibiotics had antidepressant qualities to them, but the doctor didn't tell me. And I asked the doctor several times, what are the side effects? He says, oh, don't worry about it. We'll give you vitamin B6 because the only side effect we see is nerve damage. So you might get tingly in the fingers, but with the B6, you'll be fine. And I said, any other side effects? He says, nope, you're fine. You sure? I said, yeah. You're okay. All right. So I get on these medication. The very first
Nine
day,
9 months of
9
antibiotics?
months. That's what the
What the
doctor said.
hell?
9 months. Hold on.
Oh my
On
god.
the very first day that I took this antibiotic, I went into work the next day. At the time, I was working security guard at a hotel in New York City. I walk into work the very next day. My hair was all messed up. My uniform was dirty, but I felt so happy. I was so good. I was so excited. I felt amazing. The second day, I felt even happier. And I just didn't care about anything. I was just so happy. Then on the third day, I started having very strange dreams. Like my dreams felt like a little too real, like very vivid dreams. And every month when you're on these antibiotics, you have to go to the doctor to make sure your liver functions are okay and your kidneys are not being damaged. So I go to the doctor on that first month and I tell him, my only complaint is that I feel like my dreams are so real that I can't tell the difference between reality or my dreams anymore. It's like I feel like I'm in a dream all the time. The doctor says, "Oh, that has to be something else. That's definitely not the antibiotics." And I said, "Okay, fine." I come back the next month to get checked again, and I tell him, "Look, this dream stuff, I, I don't feel good. Something's not right." He says, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's some, it's not the medication. It's something else." I said, "Are you sure? Because ever since I got on this medication, I'm having this feeling. It just doesn't feel right." On the third month, I go in. I tell the doctor, "I can't feel my limbs." He says, "What do you mean?" I tell him, like, from the knee down, I can't feel my legs, and from the elbow down, I can't feel my arms. Like I feel like my limbs are not attached to my body. He says, "Oh, stop the medication immediately, right away." So I stopped the medication right away, and about a day or two later, I had something called drug-induced psychosis. So basically, I went crazy for a day. I was hearing voices and hallucinating, and my mind just, like, reality changed. Everything went crazy, and I struggled for a while to get back into. It took me a long time, but about a month after having this, I go back to the doctor and I tell him, "Look, this happened." He apologized. He confirmed for me that this was one of the side effects. And I tell him, "I asked you a million times." And he says that people have killed themselves on this medication. And I tell him, "I was hearing voices telling me to jump out the window." He says, "I'm sorry." I said, "That's all you have to say." He sent me to see a psychiatrist. I sit down with the psychiatrist, and something in me told me these people are just trying to put me on more pills.
Yeah.
I wasn't having it, So I just walked out of the psychiatrist's office, and the first thing I did was that I went on YouTube and I told people, I was so angry with the doctors that I started telling people, this is how you can get better: diet, meditation, exercise, boxing. Like I made it my mission to tell people, look, stay away from these doctors, right? And then I left from YouTube, like I disappeared. I completely forgot that I had even put this video up. So then I come back, like I would say maybe 3 months later or something, and I see comments. People like the video, and I'm going, "Oh wow, that's strange." I got in. So then I started making more YouTube videos, and eventually people started asking me, "Hey, can I get on a Skype call with you? Like, can we chat? Can we get a conversation?" I said, "Yeah, sure, come on." And this is the part where the healing really took off, because I noticed that every single one, I even started taking notes on my phone because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Every single person that I would get on Skype with would, at some point, maybe in the beginning of the conversation or in the middle, they would always, without fail, always say to me, "Thanks for having this call with me, Ralph. I appreciate it. My life has been so tough. I had a rough childhood growing up, and my life was just very difficult." Then another person, "I had a rough childhood growing up." Then another person, "I had a rough childhood growing up." Why everybody keep telling me that? And I started to write it down. I started to write down what I was noticing, that every single person was telling me the same thing, that they had a rough childhood growing up. And then finally it hit me. I went, wait a minute. I had a rough childhood too. And I go, why is it that everyone with Espondilitis had a rough childhood? Like, it was the very first time that I started going, what's going on here? You know, something's not right.
Yeah, something is not about the physical body itself.
Yeah.
I see.
So that's when my healing really took off. And then
Uh,
my dad,
one question at this point. How much pain did you have in this moment with your exercising diet and your changing lifestyle?
I would say maybe a two,
Okay.
you know, maybe a two or a one.
Okay.
The morning stiffness was the main thing at that point.
And how from that point did you get where you are now? How did you discover your approach of how you deal now with the yes?
At this point, my dad had moved back into his apartment, so I was living in his apartment, but he wasn't there. He was with some other girlfriend, as usual. So he moved back into the apartment, and right when he moved in, my pain went up. Like, I went from a one to, like, instantly, like overnight. It just started moving up and stiff. I was feeling stiff. What the heck is going on? So I remember, wait a minute. I know a guy that told me that he can cure this thing. Like, he didn't say he can help me manage. He says, I can help you cure this thing. I said, let me call this guy. So I called Edward on the phone. And I said to him, Edward, look, my pain was fine. And all of a sudden, he says to me, what's different, Ralph? I said, the pain. The pain is different. He said, no. What's happening in your life that is different? Something is different. I tell him, the only thing that's different is that my dad moved in. He says, into the apartment? I say, yes. He goes, come to my office, okay? And I went to his office. And as soon as I walked into his office, I just started talking about my dad. And I didn't even know why I was talking about my dad. It was just coming up, you know. And he said to me, Edward said to me, I'll never forget it. He says, Ralph, puts his hand up, and he goes, 5 sessions. That's all I need, 5 sessions. And if you are not willing to take responsibility for yourself after those 5 sessions, I don't want to see you ever again. 5 sessions is all I need, and I can help you get rid of your pain. And I go, what do you mean taking responsibility? He goes, if you're not willing to take responsibility, I don't want to see you again. Okay. That was the deal we made. And that's where I learned the majority of what I would say is the fundamentals of what I do today, helping people with AS, including the deal, taking responsibility. For me, that was key.
Well, this story sounds like a movie. Like really, like
Yes, I know.
having the opportunity, also finding someone that can guide you as
Yeah,
Edwards. No, I think this is very important because many people also, like most of the people, they need some guidance. Even though I know that there are some people that they will never, or they are not going to be, they are not going to take responsibility of their health, but there are other people that they will, but because they don't have guidance, they don't know what to do. So I am glad that you find this person in your life and
yeah,
that you were able to take responsibility, because thanks to that, you not only you heal yourself, but you are now helping others, like having like a ripple effect. And now I am here and I would like to do the same. So such an important event, that one.
oh yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, okay, let's get deeper then into how the healing process work from your perspective, because I want to say in advance, like, because we talk quite a lot, and I already know more or less how do you approach healing from AS right now. What you say that can works, or that it works, is it's not based on a diet, it's not based on exercise. With this, we don't mean that for sure eating healthy and doing exercise is good for you, for sure, right? But you don't need to follow a restricted diet, or you don't need to follow a very specific plan for not having pain. Like, you can be, like, let's say, like, normal if you
Hmm.
approach AS from another perspective, right? This
Correct.
perspective, can you get a little bit deeper into what it is? Like, what is for you the root cause of pain?
Specifically for AS, I would say the root cause is repressed emotions. Some people say repressed negative emotions, but I've seen a lot of people that have repressed positive emotions too. Like I've seen people afraid of their own happiness and they avoid it. They literally, the comfort zone is misery. So they always find a way to make themselves feel miserable because they feel safe there. But I would say that's the root cause of repressed negative emotions. The point in which those repressed negative emotions turn into physical symptoms, the middle is depression. So you have repressed negative emotions, which eventually leads to depression. Because you got to take into consideration that if you're afraid of your own feelings, you're constantly releasing cortisol, adrenaline, and other hormones that affect your ability to digest your food and affect your ability to rest and digest, affect your ability to operate and function properly. And then comes the inflammation. So we can try to control the inflammation all we want, but as long as that depression is still there as a result of repressed negative emotions, there's only so much that we can do for the body externally.
So previously, like in another interview, last interview, I interviewed one guy from Spain. He's called Fernando, and he used he he his process for healing was basically, well, the main priority was exercise and also an emotional approach based on Jesus for him.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very interesting, the metaphor that he used, that he was talking like we are like a glass. So
Mm-hmm.
exercise will be like taking water outside of the glass. And your emotional suppression, tensions, stress is filling the water, is filling the glass with water. The moment that the water get outside of the glass, like let's say you have pain, so you can have a diet or you can do exercise to get water outside, and it will be quite effective. Like you can see an impact, but you will be always filling the glass with water in terms of
Correct.
stress and suppressed emotions and depression. And that's what makes you extra, what you say, that's what makes you extra reactive or extra sensitive to food or to situations, or that's why your body and your immune system have an inflammatory response. That's right. That's what I am understanding.
So you have your repressed negative emotions that puts a level of stress on the body. It makes it difficult to eat right, sleep right, operate right, function right when you have repressed negative emotions. Those repressed negative emotions, as you continue to fight them, because the majority of them are heated. So the repressed ones are usually rage, anxiety, and other, strong, angry emotions. But in order for the body to push those down, it creates depression. It creates sadness. It creates apathy. It creates nostalgia. It creates a bunch of cold, sad, depressing feelings to keep those away. And then those feelings, those emotions of sadness and all that extra stuff, that's what makes it difficult for your body to move on. So the body is already compressed. It's already compressed from holding in a lot of stuff. So I wouldn't use the glass analogy. The analogy I would use is you ever had a glass of super saturated salt water? So
Mhm.
I did this as a kid in a science experiment. So you put salt in a glass of water, and you boil it, and the crystals disappear, the salt crystals, right? Because it's what happens when you boil water. But if you throw just a little drop of salt in there, then all the other crystals come back, right? Because the water is super saturated. So any little thing in your life that is stressful is heightened, not because that one little thing is a big deal, but because the system, the body, the mind, just the person altogether is already super saturated with those emotions that they don't want to acknowledge, that they don't want to see. So anything pisses them off, everything makes them sad, everything creates this big reaction. Even
I
even when I present stuff like this, some people get upset and they
Yeah,
think it's because of what I said.
it never does. Like there is no way that any emotions that we feel can be responsibility of another one. Like it will be always
Exactly.
our responsibility. But when I hear that, Well, I have so many questions that I would like to get deeper into this. The first thing is, okay, I'm sure that some people will say, okay, I am depressed or I have anxiety. I see some people from the people that I know that they have AS, but there are other people, and I include myself, that we hide so good our emotions
Hmm.
that we are completely detached from that. Like it's so
Yes.
hidden that if you ask me, like, are you depressed or are you having anxiety? I will say, no, I'm good. Everything's
Yes.
going well.
Correct.
So how, and I think that's quite common because actually what we do is I am using what you describe in your long video on YouTube because for me it was such a good video. I will share that with this interview. Is that we use coping mechanisms or avoidance mechanisms to
Hmm.
not to feel that emotion. So my question for you is, how do we know if we are doing that? Like, what are the signals that we can see in ourselves to recognize if that's happening? Because if not, maybe at the beginning you tell me that and I will say, no, I am not repressing nothing. How can we recognize if we are hiding emotions or repressing emotions?
It's a good question. To be clear, honoring the fact that pain is the result of repressed negative emotions is enough to get rid of the pain. So we don't need to go on a healing journey for the pain to go away. So after working with Edward for about 2 months or something, my pain went away, but then it became a struggle with everything that was behind it, with my anxiety, my depression, and it was just it was a bigger pain in the ass than the pain in the ass that I had before that, right? So to answer your question, the way that I started to explore my repressed negative emotions, because I didn't know I was completely detached from a lot of things. The way that I noticed it was that I started to notice that every emotion changed the way I perceived life and what I noticed most in other people.
Can you
Like
repeat
I'll
that?
give you
You
an
say that I didn't get that. You say that. Can you repeat that?
so before I can feel emotions, I noticed emotions. So I noticed that I would my perspective of life would change, right? So when I was depressed, I didn't feel depressed,
Mm.
but nothing mattered. Nothing mattered in this life. Everything was mundane, everything was passing, everything was philosophical and spiritual and religious. Everything was about, what comes next. I didn't care about worldly things. And then when I wasn't depressed, I was interested in going to the gym. I was interested in looking for work. I was interested in learning how to cook. My interests would change. So that was the very first thing I started to notice was that my perspectives changed, my interests changed, my behavior, even the way I perceived physical reality was different based on different emotions that I was experiencing but didn't notice, right? And then I also started to pay very close attention to what I focused on in other people. For example, I remember, and this was probably one of my favorite eureka moments. I remember at the time I was sitting in the lobby waiting for a client to come into the building, and he walks in with his dog. Dog's name was Hudson, and every time Hudson would come into the building, he would come to me, and I would play with him. I would pet him, and he would jump on me. And that day, Hudson walks into the building, and he walks by me, and I go, Hudson, Hudson, Hudson. And the dog just kept going. And I'm going, Hudson? And behind the dog came the owner. And the owner says to me, oh, don't worry. He gets like that when he gets a haircut. So when the dog gets a haircut, he walks like this and he ignores people and he knows that he's hot stuff when he gets a haircut. And I sat there thinking to myself, wow, that dog is prideful. And it hit me. I went, wait a minute. The dog is prideful. I go, that's a dog, and the dog is prideful. And yet, I keep telling myself that I'm humble, that I have no pride, that I'm humble, that I'm not no pride, that I'm a humble person, I'm a spiritual person, I have no pride. And I went, wait a minute, I'm so proud to be humble. My pride is in humility, but it's still pride. No matter what I call it, I'm still proud. It's pride. My goodness. And I started to notice these things in myself. I started to notice that everything that I highlighted as a big negative thing in other people was often my own stuff. It was often my own stuff. I would pass by the homeless guys in the streets here in New York City, and I would feel so much compassion and these feelings of vulnerability and sadness for the person. But then I realized it's not for the person. This is my own. Like this is my own vulnerability. This is my own self pity, and I started to connect with what was in my body. So that's how I started to map within myself what I was experiencing.
And Ralph, when we talk about this dimension of like how to heal emotionally, no, because how
Mm-hmm.
to approach healing AS emotionally, I see like three layers. I would like to know what do you think about this, and at what level do we need to go? Because one level is, you say, when you realize that pain is created by your repression of emotions, that's level one. You can heal from there.
Mm-hmm.
Just, it doesn't mean that you need to get enlightened. You don't need to
Right,
deal with all your emotions perfectly, right? It's just
right,
acknowledging that pain comes from emotions. But later for me is level two, that is dealing with the outside world. It's like, should I change anything in the outside world that creates stress or any kind of bad emotions? For example, my dad is living in my house. And then is level three, that is, it's not about the outside world. It's about my inside world. How is my relationship with this emotion? How is my relationship with feeling pride? How is my relationship with feeling humble? No? How is my relationship with stress? So at what do we need to heal every level to overcome pain? Like the only way of being pain free is becoming Buddha?
no, not even close. Yeah,
So
not even
how?
close.
So
Be-
where do we position ourselves in this map? Or
So
yeah,
the very first stage is all that's necessary to heal pain. But then once you heal the pain, chances are that you're going to start noticing things in yourself that you never noticed, because that's what pain is for. Pain is to help you hide yourself from yourself, and you start noticing things in yourself that you never noticed before. Now, if there is a stage two would be how do you process those feelings. So it's not necessarily, I would switch two and three. So it's
okay.
not, do I have to change anything in the outside world? The second stage I would say is, how do you experience yourself? How do you experience these new thoughts? Because some of them are angry, some of them are sad, some of them are sexual, some of them are violent. There's a lot of things in yourself that you see. So it's about how you stay present with that.
And
And
let me
then
check.
comes
Let me check
that.
something before we go to the next one. So what you say is that at the moment that you realize that pain is a signal of your repressed emotions, that is going to change your awareness about your own emotions, because somehow pain this time, instead of hiding emotions, is going to be pointing emotions, because now you know the truth, right? Like now you know that when
Right,
you are having pain, it means there is an emotion here. There is something here that
right,
I am not dealing properly with, right? So instead of a
right.
hiding mechanism, now becomes like a signaling or pointing mechanism. So you go to level two, where you will be all the time like, my God, this is all my inner world that I have been not seeing until now.
And it's not like you have to consciously keep looking. It will come up by itself. So I'll give you an example. Let's take one of the behaviors, right? There's one of the behaviors for repressing, right? Say people pleasing. So you meet someone new, it triggers your social anxiety. And in order for you to cope with that social anxiety, you turn to people pleasing. You become super nice, extra nice. There is a point between who I am, right, and how I behave. It's a very fast window. It happens very quick. But there is a point between who I am and how I behave that changes. It takes me from being myself, behaving differently, and going into people pleasing, you'll start to notice that shift. You start to notice when exactly you go into people pleasing, when you go into perfectionism, when you go into striving, when you go into obsessing. You start to notice that. And at that point, you become more aware of your triggers. You become more aware of the things that you're not secure with in your life.
And at this stage, well, before you were mentioning before, this is like a stage 2. There is a stage
Stage 2.
3. Do we need to change all these behaviors in order to get pain free, or just this awakening or acknowledging what is happening is enough, or we need to go deeper?
You start by acknowledging, and in terms of changing, there is no changing. There is only there is who I am. That's one way. And how I behave, in order to make other people feel comfortable, other people feel happy, other people feel safe, right? There is a true self and there is a fabricated self. So there is no change. There is only a no longer choosing the fabricated self and becoming more aligned with the true self, right? It's becoming more aligned with the true self. So you're not really changing anything. You are simply honoring your truth, who you are, your feelings, your beliefs. Obviously, there are some moments in life where we have to choose a fabricated response. Like if you're upset with your boss, you're not going to just tell the boss, "Hey, fuck you," like going to get you fired, but you're aware, your true self wants to tell your boss to fuck off. You're choosing this fabricated response out of personal interest to protect your job. Just that alone, being truthful with yourself, is enough. So it's not like we're actively changing anything. We're simply just choosing to continue this anxious, toxic behavior of trying to protect other people more than we protect ourselves, choosing other people more than we choose ourselves.
I see. And what will happen if at this stage, when you are aware, like you are aware of your true self, and you recognize that an behavior of this fabricated self is manifesting, and when you
Mm-hmm.
feel that, instead of like you choose consistently, like, okay, I am aware, but I would like to continue with my fabricated self, like dealing
Mm-hmm.
with bringing my true self to reality, like I am afraid of that. This can change, because I feel that, no, like it will be it that can have a huge impact in your life. That can have an impact with maybe your friends. Maybe the way you have been relating with your friends is from a fabricated self. Maybe the way that you
Correct.
have your partner is from a fabricated self. Maybe
Correct.
your work and your career path is completely from a fabricated self. So
Correct.
it's possible to continue choosing the fabricated self, or yeah, it's normal to have fear.
Some people do.
Yeah.
Some people do. Some people choose the fabricated self over the true self, and that's perfectly fine, you know. But the journey doesn't go well for them. But there are people that choose that, and there are many people out there in the chronic pain community as a whole that they have some awareness of this. They know that they're not as nice as they pretend to be. They know that they're not as spiritual or as religious as they choose to be or pretend to be. They know this, but they continue to go that way because it gets them the love that they want, the attention that they want. It gets them the friends, the relationships, the life that they want. And they believe that that's the only way to have that. For me, choosing what is true to me, my true desires, aspirations, how I want to live my life, has only created more of how I want to live my life. But the patient that's going through the journey, they have to see it for themselves in their life in order for them to become more in tune with choosing that path.
Okay, and it, a question, something came to my mind. Like the same way that when we follow a very restricted diet, you become
Mm-hmm.
sensitive to food. Like if you are having like a while without eating pizza, like is my case, or not eating gluten, like I am more sensitive now. It will change if I eat for 1 week pizza, and I will become again, my system will be adapted, but I will
Mm-hmm.
be more sensitive. So if we follow this approach, do we become more sensitive for to a fabricated self? Like it can happen that we get into, I don't know, like a paranoid state of wanting to be all the time our true self, and like being afraid of not being our true self, because if not, pain will manifest again.
But I don't think pain will manifest again if you choose your fabricated self. It's not like once you've become more aware, more solid of where you are, when you're bullshit and you know why you're bullshit. And by that point, depending how much time you've spent with your true self, you become aware of those things.
I see.
For me, I just don't see the value. I don't see the point. I, for me personally, if I'm going to bullshit about something, it's because I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. If I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing, yeah, I'm gonna bullshit the IRS. I'm gonna bullshit, you know, the tax man or my landlord or whatever. But I know I'm bullshitting, and I know why I'm bullshitting. You know, so yeah, even that comes from an authentic self. The authentic part of me that bullshits. You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
But this choice between your true self and the fabricated self, it comes from a deeper place. And when that is processed and acknowledged, even the thought, oh, if I choose my fabricated self, I'm going to relapse. Even that is not it's not a thing. That's not.
I see. Well, what I am
You know,
understanding is that in this process, like we create the same way during meditation, we can create a space from our thoughts and our consciousness. When we become aware of our emotional world, that create like an space, and
hmm
that space by itself is releasing the saturation, as you said before, with the salt. Like no
yeah,
matter, like it doesn't have, you don't have to do everything perfect. Like you can do it, you can go sometime with the fabricated self, and you can go with the true self, but you will be aware of that. It's not going to be
yes, exactly,
collapsed in your and invisible to you, right? So and then
correct,
you will not know why you are feeling in a specific way. Like
correct,
you will be more aware of everything that is happening inside you, and having more space for these
correct,
emotions. Or
right.
I see. And Ralph, I from this, I completely get it. Actually, I want to share with you one example that I saw recently. I saw the documental, the movie of This May Hurt from Dr. Skubirner. I don't know if I pronounce properly the name, but he's like the new Dr. Sarno. And
Yeah, Schubert.
yeah, Schubiner. And thank you. Yeah, I needed to hear once to really pronounce properly the name Schubiner. And this reminds me a lot. There is a story in this film, and there is a woman that, if you pay attention, I am very sensitive to emotions and to people. No, and when I'm watching the film, one thing is what people say, but another one is what you see in their faces. What you see in their body language, what you feel them. No, and this woman
Correct.
during the whole movie, you can feel she's stuck, like she's holding back, like the face, like there is tension. She's not natural. and
Yes.
and then, for example, Tommy, it's called Tommy, I think. He is one of the first one that instantly, like after a few sessions, he feel better, and you can see him how he, the face change, how he's like more shining. But this other woman continued there, like, I have been here for a long time, and the sessions are not
hmm
working for me. And at some point, she acknowledged that she's struggling with his wife, no, the husband, with the husband.
hmm
And he acknowledged that he's struggling with the husband, and that she's having like some difficult situations at home. But she didn't want to face that at any moment, you know?
hmm
And at the moment that she faced that, and that she realized that, like you see the next interview, she's another woman.
Yes.
She's another
Oh,
woman. And
it's
then
fascinating.
it's fascinating, like how much was holding that woman inside her. So this is this is basically what is happening to us. No, there is
Yeah,
somehow, and that's why
that's all there is to it.
Yeah. So okay, I believe I trust on this. I can perceive this, but I have some specific questions because, like, for I am like an advanced student in terms of what is available. We know, for those who don't know, we have like the Dr. Sarno was like the beginning of all this, no, with the TMS syndrome. And in that umbrella, he put a lot of different illness that can be inside the TMS syndrome. Now we have Dr. Schubiner that he's using pain reprocessing therapy for healing almost the same umbrella of illness. And is what they say is that pain is based, like all the pain that we experience is created by the brain. This is point number one. Like pain, it doesn't exist by itself. Like we have signals,
Correct.
but we don't have pain. Pain is created in the brain. So this is point number one. But point number two is also the repression of the emotions. And this combined create like the pain that we experience. But when I check the website and I go to the list, ankylosis spondylitis is not in the list. So I want to ask you, because I think that your approach is similar, why our illness is not in the list? Why, like, do you think we can approach with in the same way? Because officially we are not in the list. Fibromyalgia it is, but our illness is supposed not to be, I think, because it's considered immunological. So there is some kind of structural damage or thing. So what do you think about that? It's what do you think?
The good news is that it is on the list with Dr. Sarno. you
With
know,
Dr.
so
Sarno.
it's on Dr. Sarno's list. You just have to make sure that you pay attention, right? So, in Healing Back Pain, the physical copy of the book, I don't have it because I gave it to the doorman who has back pain, and I just gave it to him as a gift. Otherwise, I could have got the book and showed it to you. Or maybe you have it. I don't know.
No, I
But
don't have it.
the Healing Back Pain, the actual physical book, somewhere around page 108, 105, or something like that. I don't remember. He mentions ankylosing spondylitis, and he talks about Norman Cousins, who was a gentleman back in the 70s and 80s that healed from ankylosing spondylitis, taking high doses of vitamin C and using the mind body connection. So he was watching comedy and addressing his emotions, and ankylosing spondylitis went away. So Dr. Sarno mentions ankylosing spondylitis. He mentions Norman Cousins. And then he also mentions that he doesn't believe that Norman Cousins healed from ankylosing spondylitis because he was taking vitamin C and watching comedy. He believes that it was simply his acknowledgement that ankylosing spondylitis is an emotional issue that led Norman Cousins to healing. And then he talks about lab mice, how lab mice were trained to get an autoimmune response using saline water and certain things. So you could actually make rats get an autoimmune response to certain things, like water, etc., and all that good stuff. So Dr. Sarno in his books mentions ankylosing spondylitis, and he also mentions the mind-body connection with autoimmune conditions.
Okay, yeah, because I know that you approach in this way, no, in your own way, but it's the same, let's say, system or category or something like that, no? And
Yes.
I think there is like a limitation in the information or documentation that I see about Dr. Schubiner, because he explained pain, like the pain that he, at least the one that he completely trusts that he can heal, the one that, because they
Mm-hmm.
play very safe, and I really appreciate that. Like they don't
Yes,
try
they do.
to be over promising at all. That's something super
Mm-hmm.
cool about them. So I think that's why we are not in the list. But they talk about pain as something created by the brain. Like actually,
Mm-hmm.
they talk about neuro pain. So
Yes.
because in our case, there is a physical reaction, like there is something actually you can see in your immune system, like the inflammation markers high in some cases, not in all cases, but you
Mm-hmm.
can see it. Or you can see physical inflammation sometimes in your joints. So I think that's
Yes.
why we are not in that. So even though this, like, pain doesn't need to be created directly, or it can be an immunologic response, you think we can approach immunologic responses with an emotional approach. I see.
And I personally believe that the reason why some people have a tougher time with AS, like you said, because there's a physical thing going on, it's also because of the structure of the community itself. So the community, the chronic pain community itself, they put ankylosing spondylitis on a pedestal. They overvalue what it is. Whereas with people with TMS, they are already coming from a place where, oh, it's just TMS. Oh, it's just emotions. Whereas people with AS, oh no, it's ankylosing spondylitis. There's bigger value. So you do have the influence of the community itself. They take it more serious than the people with TMS. And that has an influence on,
Yeah.
on how you go through the journey.
Yeah, for me, super, like, I'm very happy to hear that we that you believe we can approach in this way, because really when I saw the list, I was like, fuck, maybe they forgot to put it into the list, and I was checking like multiple lists, and it's like, no way, no one is here. So should I follow this practice, or maybe it's not the right one, because it's a big commitment. Like, it's something that you have to learn, it's something that you have to believe, it's something that you have to practice. So it's time that you are putting an energy, so you want to make sure that it's the right approach for whatever you are experiencing. And also, I would like to ask you another thing that is in the film of Dr. Schubener. He explains, he only give one data point about the success rate, one, in the
Mm-hmm.
whole film. I would love to have more data points about the success rate, but he say 50% of people improve a 50%. That's what
Mm-hmm.
he said. The only data point, because I am obsessed with data. Probably that's one of my characteristics also of having control. So, in your case, or with the how many people that you have been helping, like, what is the success rate that we can expect?
Over the years, I've gotten better with my success rate, and it's gotten very good. I would say 90%, maybe 80%. But it's not because I've gotten better at helping other people with it. It's not because of skills or anything like that. It's simply because I got better at recognizing who has what it takes and who doesn't. So before I enroll anyone into the program or anyone into the practice, I always make sure I take my time listening and understanding what the circumstances of the individual are. For example, you spoke about the woman that just couldn't admit that she was having problems with her husband. I wouldn't take that person.
I see.
I give Schubert credit for being patient and continuing to work with her, but I wouldn't work with that person simply because I approach every person that I work with as a risk versus reward case. And the risk is, in my mind, what's at stake? Because like you said, we we can have our marriage based on our fabricated self, on our fake self. We married someone because we pretended to be very nice, very spiritual, very religious. If this person goes through this healing journey and starts becoming more truthful, they might end up getting divorced, so that's a risk. And I don't take that. I don't get involved in that because over the years I saw it many times where people struggle with their marriage. And if they try to save their marriage, then what happens next is the other risk. What is the risk of relapse? What is the risk of going back or developing a new TMS manifestation? For some people, they can go from having ankylosing spondylitis to now being drug addicts or being alcoholics because they haven't dealt with the root issue. So every person that I chat with, in order to get the best success rate that I can, I always listen very carefully. What are the circumstances? How are you living? Who do you live with? How's your family? Tell me more about. And that eventually, it gets to a point where I go, okay, this is considered low risk, low to medium risk. there are some things at stake. And I let the person know, listen, I'm concerned about this. This could potentially, cost you your job. Or some people are like, oh, I'm perfectly fine with that. There's a woman I worked with years ago. She was a scientist. And after the healing journey, she says, I can't do this anymore. So she quit her job, and she's now a business owner. She became a business owner, entrepreneur, and never looked back. So that's and I would say it's the same thing with Dr. Schubiner. I'm assuming that his success rate, I don't know if he's ever paid attention to it, but his success rate, 50% of people get 50% better. I promise you, if you were to look into each and every one of those individuals, there are some things that are attached to their fabricated self that they haven't been able to face.
So there is, I see here, I want to mention one thing because we talked before a little bit in another call about this. How do you pick people, or why you choose who to work with to make sure that you have a high success rate, and also to make sure that you can really have an impact on their lives? But I want to
Correct.
mention something for everyone that see this interview, that is, because when I hear that for the first time, I was thinking like, maybe you are choosing people that they have the personality characteristics that you know how to solve, no, or that you can help them. And maybe there are a group of people that they have AS and they don't have these personality traits or behaviors, so you cannot help them. But it's not the case. What you mentioned, what I understand is that you choose people that they are ready to make the change, that they have a environment also that is somehow ready or easier to make the change. But everyone have the opportunity of making the change. Like, there is
Correct.
not a single person that if they really commit, they cannot.
Correct. And some people are hiding from things that they absolutely need to work with a therapist. There's some people that have childhood traumas and experiences that are so intense that they have to work with a therapist to process those things.
I see.
So that's really all it comes down to.
And look, it made me think also about something. You say that you have more or less, let's say, like a 80% success rate. I would like to understand a few things about this. One, when we say success, is because Dr. Schubiner mentioned 50% improvement. But you right now,
Mm-hmm.
for example, you and some people that you work with, they are completely pain free. So what is
Yeah,
for you success? When we say 80%, what is the spectrum?
me it depends, because if I start working, like I'll give an example of someone I worked with years ago who was on a bunch of medications, was had 2 hip replacements, was still in pain, was still miserable. This person got off the medication, was able to walk, you know, fine. May have a little stiffness here and there, but to me, that's success.
I see.
Right now, there's someone in the community that used to be on antidepressants. Recently, no more antidepressants. Pain wasn't a big deal because this person had been in remission for about 6, 7 years. After working with me, had a little bit of a relapse, and we addressed certain things, and now this person is back on track. So to me, that's success. No more relapse, no more antidepressants. So it really depends. If a person is like, there's a gentleman I chatted with, he was 99.9% better, but there was still that little pinch. And we had a few conversations. After a month, he says, oh, my little pinch went away. I'm doing much better now. To me, that's not success. That's not success. I don't care if he's 100% pain free. What I'm looking at is his obsession with being 100% pain free. What, you know, to me, it's like, no, you still got work to do, man.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm fine. I'm 100%.
You see, but I think that's also connected with your passion of not only helping people to be pain free, but really helping people to thrive in life, no, to get the best of themselves, right?
Yeah,
That's
bring
the
their
area.
best.
Yeah, I think that's the area that you like the most, no? And okay, one thing. So also, I don't know why I would like to ask you. if we consider, okay, stage one is understanding that my pain is coming from my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I have that belief, but I continue having some pain. So,
Mm-hmm.
what is the expectation? And this is also Dr. Sarno approach, because I think Dr. Sarno don't go too much deeper in
No,
the
he
way,
doesn't.
right? He is almost that and having some affirmations to validate on that and to work in your subconscious to so you really believe on that. What 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 do you think are the success, like the probabilities of reducing pain or being pain free all in that level?
If we're taking numbers, I'll say maybe 90%, just on that level.
What do you mean by
But it's
90%?
not like 90% of people can get better just with that alone. With that,
Okay.
just read the book, understand what Starno was saying. But to be fair, you don't have to believe what doctor is saying for you to get better. Like some people get fixated on thinking that believing equals relief. And you don't have to believe it. I worked with plenty of people that don't believe that it's emotional or any of that stuff. You don't have to believe it.
So what do you have to?
Be true to yourself.
Yesterday, I was watching a documental that was, let me see if I have it here because it was so good, that it was explaining the difference between believing and having faith. Let me
Mm-hmm.
read you because I never thought so much. Like, this is something that I really see in my community when I share with them. Um, hey, you can heal by changing your emotions, and but you have to believe on that, no? And they are like, Alvaro, like I don't believe on that. Or I don't know. My brother told me like, Alvaro, you sound now like a religion, like you saying to people that they have to believe on something. And I was like, fuck, I don't want to be there in reality. So yesterday I found this mention that was explaining the documentary is called Samadhi. So good. I don't know if you know it. So good about the spirituality in YouTube for free for everyone. And it says that belief is accepting something as true for the peace of the mind. When you accept
Correct.
something as true for the peace of the mind. But having faith, that I think that's what we need in this, because you maybe you don't believe it, but you have faith. Faith is staying at the place of complete not knowing, accepting whatever arises. Repeat, staying at the place of complete not knowing, accepting whatever arises.
I like that.
What do you think? It makes sense for you, that attitude for this process?
Almost.
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 I
Yeah.
see a smile in
Almost.
your face.
But I do like it. I do
Yeah,
like, yeah.
that is something that you will consider different.
When I was going through the journey myself, there was a lot of things that got me this close to running away. As a matter of fact, before I worked with Edward, I worked with a bunch of other people and I ran away every single time. Every single time. And when I was working with Edward, I was this close to running away. Almost after every session, I was this close. And I'm going, I just can't trust this guy. It's like there's something. And mind you, when I started working with him, I already knew him personally for at least 5 years. So we knew each other for 5 years before we started working together. And we had a relationship, we had a bond before we even started working together. And I was still, I couldn't trust him. Feelings would come up, fears would come up, insecurities would come up. I just wanted to run away. And you would think, okay, is it faith that kept you there? Like, was it? No, it wasn't. It wasn't faith. It was the
What it
fact
was?
that I had seen a glimpse of myself. And I noticed that there was a split between myself and who I thought I was. There was a difference. I got to see it. And it came during that manic episode with the medication.
Yeah, with the
I got to see,
antibiotics.
I got to see I saw myself. Not just saw myself, but I felt myself. Like I felt myself. In that craziness, like I can feel where I'm located in my body. I'm like, oh wow, that's where I sit in my body. Most people are here. Like when you point to yourself, like your sense of self, most people are up here. I felt myself here in my heart. And I was like, wow, it was the worst experience of my life, but I got to see a glimpse of myself. So what kept me there was genuine interest in getting to know myself. So I wouldn't say it's faith. I wouldn't say it's trust. I wouldn't say it's belief. I would say it's genuine interest in having that relationship with yourself. That's all it takes.
Hmm.
If you have genuine interest in getting to know more of who you are and what that means to you, like what is that? That's all you need. No one sits here and goes, let me resolve this trauma so I can feel better, or so my pain can go away, or let me feel these feelings. No, no, no. Even for me, like till this day, when I feel things that are sad, that are just last night before I went to bed, I was telling my wife how miserable I am as a dad, and I tell her I'm so miserable, because the new Call of Duty came out. I want to play Call of Duty, and I haven't had time, like not even 5 minutes to sit and play Call of Duty because the baby is, he's a toddler, he's running around, and he takes this a lot of time and energy. And I tell her, I'm so miserable. I have no life. I can't go boxing. It's like it's horrible. She looks at me. She's so sad, and I tell her, babe, it's okay to admit it. It's okay. Oh, but I don't want you to feel like you don't love him. No, I love him. I'm just not a fan of him right now. Anyways, I'm going to bed because I have to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, and this
I
is
see.
part of myself. You know.
Ralph, when you say that, I would like to use a metaphor that we have also in the last interview that I think is super aligned with what you are saying. That Jesus Fernando was explaining that the body, the pain that we have, is like a baby crying and it's
Mm-hmm.
talking to us. The crying is like, meh.
Yeah.
And if you shut up the baby, what it does is
It
it will
screams
do it
louder.
louder, and that will be louder and louder. And then he says something very interesting that is super connected with what you are saying. That is, for me nowadays, because pain is the baby crying.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, for me, it's not about if the baby is crying or not. It's not about feeling uncomfortable with the crying, that you can feel like a stress, or like shut up, like no, like it's important. It's better not to have the baby crying. But when I hear the baby crying, my question is, why is the baby crying? Turning that into
Correct.
curiosity, and that's exactly what you are
Yes.
mentioning. It's not so much only about the pain itself. It's the curiosity about discovering yourself.
Correct. Experiencing yourself.
Hmm.
That's anytime I speak to someone who's interested in joining the community, that's one of the things that I gauge. How interested are them? How interested are they in experiencing themselves? As long as the focus is hyper focused on, I need to heal, I need to get rid of this back pain, I need to. No, 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 no. How curious are you in getting to know you? How interested are you in that? Because that will determine whether you run away or not when the tough stuff comes up. Because there will be some tough stuff. There
You
are
know,
some things that come up that are tough.
for me, there is. I'm trying to get extra light because the sun is disappearing. I, there
That's
is
okay.
something. There is something that I discover in this process, or that I am discovering in this process, that I think is very important for people to mention. When I start, I have been 7 years dealing with pain. 7. During the last 7 years, I improved my diet, I improved my exercise, and I continue doing so, no? And I always thought like, wow, I can understand why people can choose to get medication, because changing your diet and doing exercise consistently is such a challenge.
Yes.
But after meeting you and knowing you and consuming your content and understanding better what you are telling us, it makes me think like, wow, the diet and the exercise is easy. The diet and the exercise, that's easy. Maybe some people, they would prefer to do the diet and the exercise, because really
Yes.
wanting to connect with your true self, going deep, understanding everything, this is not for everyone. Well, actually,
No.
I will frame this in another way. This could be for everyone. And I don't think there is nothing more beneficial for anyone. but I can understand why someone can be afraid, or I can understand why they are not going to do it. But everyone, I think we truly have the potential of understanding ourselves and getting deeper and releasing pain.
Yes. And just so you know, this is a journey that we as human beings have been on for thousands of years. And I'll tell you, there were two parts in the. So I was raised Christian. Now I consider myself more of a Taoist. But in the Bible, there are two parts about this true self, fabricated self thing. The first one is in the book of Exodus. It says, and Moses approached the thick darkness where God lives. But right before it says that, it says the people stayed away while Moses approached the thick darkness where God lives. So Moses found God in the darkness, the thick darkness. And most people stayed away from that. They worshiped false idols, they worshiped statues, anything but the dark where God lives. And then later on, we have Jesus who literally said, I am the truth, the light and the way. But I am the truth. And right before he was crucified, the people were given a choice. People were given a choice. They had a choice between taking the truth, which is Jesus, or choosing Barabbas. Barabbas is a criminal that was on trial and he was going to get crucified. So the people had to choose. Do you want Jesus to get crucified or do you want Barabbas to get crucified? Guess who the people chose? They chose Barabbas. They said, give me Barabbas. Let Barabbas free. Crucify that lying truth.
Mm-hmm.
And people were so upset. So even in scriptures, we see that we have a tendency as human beings to choose something other than the truth. And the truth is that if right now you feel a certain way, that's how you feel. So when people say to me, Ralph, I don't believe I can heal. Beautiful, we're on the right track. What do you mean? Like how am I supposed to heal if I don't believe it? Because it's the truth that sets you free. So if you come here telling me that you believe when you really don't, we can have a great relationship, great friendship and everything, but you're not going to get anywhere. It's the truth that's going to get you there, not me. So if the truth is that you don't believe Sarno, start with that.
Look, that it's so amazing for me that we are having an interview or I am researching about how to heal my back pain, and the conversation is about spirituality and truth, and it's so fascinating for me, like so fascinating, I have to say. I know that for some people there will be a reason to disconnect. For me, it's so fascinating, really. And I want to share with you also one quote that I saw yesterday in this documental of Samadhi. I will put it and I will share it with you because it's so good. It's so good. That it say, I was watching the documental and all the time connecting with AS and with the pain, because this is what I am researching now. So it says every solution that comes from the egoic mind is driven by the idea that there is a problem. Mm-hmm. So everything that came from the egoic mind is driven by the idea that there is a problem, like a problem to solve. And the solution becomes a greater problem than what it was trying to resolve.
Yes.
When I hear that, I was thinking, oh my God, this is me developing exercises. This is me developing a diet, and then the solution, it becomes a bigger problem than the problem that you were trying to solve itself. And
Correct.
also it was saying that this is very clear. It says, what you resist persist.
Yes.
And I think that's almost everything that is happening inside us. Like what we
Correct.
resist persists.
That's right. Resisting emotions, resisting beliefs, resisting thoughts. Yeah, stop fighting.
And Ralph, I have one question. Did you see in the people that you have been working with, how many people have you been working with in your life?
Oof, I lost count. Just that 1 year alone on YouTube, when I was first starting to connect with people that were saying that, they had easy about 40, and that was like, and back then I didn't know what I know today, but yeah.
And And do you see in these people because I know that you get deep into talking with them, right, and understanding their lives, and other patterns, like other manifestations of suppressing emotions in their lifetime? Because if I check in my past, I realized recently that I have two different experiences in my life, like two different symptoms. One was insomnia when I was a child because I was
Mm-hmm.
not able to sleep outside of my house. And the other one,
Mm.
because I was afraid of being awake. I was afraid of the
Wow.
insomnia itself. And the other one was having like extreme social anxiety when I was back to my old city, to Sevilla. And
Mm-hmm.
when I realized that they have the same structural pattern. It's basically there is an emotion that I don't want to experience. Like I don't want to be in the bed completely like for me it was like the most boring thing possible to be 8 hours. That was panicking me. And the other one was the social anxiety. I didn't want to experience that. So I was suppressing that, and I have fear to that experience, and that create like a feedback loop of making that bigger. You have fear to experience something, and then I suppress that because I will never
Mm-hmm.
want anyone to know that I wasn't able to sleep outside. And I will never allow anyone to know that I was feeling social anxiety. So I see on myself like, Alvaro, if back pain is like that, you did it 2 times in the past. You
Yes,
did it 2 times.
correct.
Do you
Correct.
see, do people have this pattern? Like maybe they can realize like, okay, I'm not sure about this thing about the back pain, but I am applying that, or did I have the same problem in the past? Do you see that in people?
Yes. So when we talk about pain in this community, we only understand pain as a physical sensation. But the same exact pain that people feel in their back can manifest itself in the form of other symptoms, so and it could also manifest itself in the form of behavior, including addictions. So I've worked with people who went to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous,
Mm-hmm.
to stop drinking. And the moment they learned how to stop drinking and they learned to suppress their desire to drink, now they have AS. I worked with people that went to anger management. They were always angry. I was always upset. They learned how to control their anger. Now they have AS. I've worked with people that, had some nervous tick, some type of, anxious thing. The moment they learned how to, now they have AS.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not always just the back pain. Sometimes that pain could be a behavior as well. So it's just
Yeah.
part of being human.
I say this because for me it was a big realization, and maybe for those who are not sure about if they are repressing emotions or not, what they can do, or my recommendation would be like, hey, check your past and see if you have another experience repressing emotions and having fear about experiencing something, and that fear create a feedback loop that create a massive situation.
Yes.
If that's the case, even though it's not pain, it can be anxiety, it can be insomnia, it can be whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then, because the last thing that I realized is, I think this is a normal behavior for everyone, but the speed of fear to the experience and repeating that in a loop is like the speed per minute, like the number of like cycles per
Revolutions.
minute. That is your obsessive way of thinking, and not everyone have that obsessive way of thinking. I
Right.
do. And then because you do, it becomes like,
Yes. Takes off.
yeah. So because actually I do you agree that people that normally have this kind of manifestation or symptoms of AS, like, do they have tendency to having obsessive thinking,
Yes.
or is not always the case?
Most of the time they have.
Most, right?
I say most of the time. More than half of them have obsessive ways of thinking. Not just thinking, but also behaving. Which is we tend to be very rigid. In the way we live life. The way we see life, the way we You know, like sometimes I have conversations with people, and the root of their pain, the root of their anger, the root of their frustration is idealism. They believe that their childhood should have been a certain way. Their parents should have been a certain way. Society should be a certain way. Other people should be a certain way. The government should be a certain way. And even though that specific person may not show obsessive, OCD like behaviors, and they may not have it in their life, the way they perceive others and the world around them is very rigid. You know, they think the world should be a certain way, and it's not.
And that is
You know,
created
so that
like a chronic resistance
yeah,
to
chronic
reality.
resistance, chronic tension to
Mm.
reality, to what it is,
Mm.
to what is. You know,
And look, I am trying to put here a light because like this is the last sun. This eye that I have here, this is the sun, like the sunset. So I am putting here like an artificial light to make sure that I can end the interview with you. And Ralph, let me ask you one more thing. Like, if anyone right now is like, okay, I I can see myself into this. I can see myself. What should I do? Like, what will you recommend? What are the next steps? How can you get into this journey?
just start by observing. That's it. Just start by observing, because the act of observing yourself changes yourself, and the act of observing this egoic, neurotic thing that is happening in you, it starts to resolve it. But don't try to change it. You know, don't try to. It's like the little kid in the Matrix, right? You know, don't try to bend the spoon. You know, that's impossible. Instead, only realize the truth. And Neo's like, what truth? There is no spoon. Then you realize that it's not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself, right? So just observe yourself, just see it, just leave it there, just see it for what it is. And that starts to shift things. It's not like, there's a movie called Revolver with Andre 3000 and Jason Strahan, I think that's how you pronounce his name. There's a scene in that movie. It's a spiritual movie, by the way. It's an action movie, but it's spiritual. And there's a part where the ego is like trying to take control of the person's mind, and he just smiles at it, just walks on by. That's what we do to ourselves. So with your social anxiety, with your insomnia, you just observe. Okay, there's my fear. That's my social anxiety. There's my mind telling me that people are going to think, people are going to say. And yeah, we honor that truth. We honor the truth that there's a part of me that is afraid of what people are going to think of me. Instead of, you can't control that. You can't control what other people think of you. You cannot, instead of fighting it and resisting it, it's simply, yeah, that exists in me. There's a part of me that cares for what other people think of me. And then the body just naturally and you smile, oh, there is a part of me that cares. And you just feel it in your body. There is a part of me that cares. And because I care, I show up to the interview with my hair all nice, and a nice button-up shirt, make sure I shave, because there's a part of me that cares. Instead of telling myself, I don't care. Uh, yeah, that part of me exists too, but as of right now, there's a part of me that cares. So we honor that. We give it light. We give it a way to, you know,
And
and
look,
that's it. It's not that complicated.
and there are any resources, or I don't know, because for you maybe right now it sounds, I know it's so easy. It's supposed to be so easy that it's difficult. Like it's so simple that it's difficult to see. So where
Yeah.
what are the resources where people can go or find you, to what are the to get more guide?
You can go on my YouTube channel. Everything is there as far as I can take the listener, because watching videos, listening to podcasts and all that, that's all part of the educational part. This is everything we're doing here is for people that are still learning, understanding, absorbing information. But once the actual journey begins, there's a reconnection that needs to happen. Reconnecting with yourself, reconnecting with life, reconnecting with others, loving yourself, loving life. And that's not going to happen watching videos. But until then, you go on my YouTube channel. Everything is there. How to the
Look,
whole healing
I
process,
will share.
everything is
I will share a screen here. Here you have your Instagram account, Ralph Fitness,
there. Yeah.
and in YouTube. I have to say that you did an amazing work. If you go to the playlist, well, you are posting a lot of content. You are posting faster than I am able to consume right now. Really, like, oh
Well,
my,
I'm done. I'm
you are
finished,
done.
just so you know.
Thank
Yeah, I'm
God.
done.
It's impossible to consume everything. You're faster than consuming. There is a video. Let me see in videos. There is one that you have advanced my body healing. This
It's on the playlist too.
in the playlist. There is one. The first one that I saw was the long one of 1 hour and a half or
It's the
two
black one.
hours.
It's
Uh,
that one. Yeah, the
this
black one.
one.
The black one. Yeah.
Here,
So
here.
that's yeah, that one. That's the
Okay,
2 hour one. It's
okay,
just that in that one, all the videos are separate, but
uh,
that's the 2 hour one.
okay. Like I completely recommend to anyone that want to get deeper into this to check this playlist, because for me it was mind blowing. I have to say also, like, in my case, after that, I have to say that I felt a little bit overwhelmed. Like I was like, I have like a crisis of 2 days. Like, oh my God, realizing how many coping mechanisms I have for suppressing my emotions that I never realized. So I just want to put a warning here that for anyone
Hmm.
that watch it, because maybe that will happen to you too, and allow that to happen. Like just recognize that that is happening. And here you have a lot of content. Also, you have the website, and you also have a community, right? Where you in a school where you are helping people directly. You have the coaching sessions. That will be the way of working directly with you, right? Beautiful, fantastic. And I don't know, there is something else that you would like to share or to say?
Yeah, that's it.
Super. So, Ralph, thank you one more time for your
Thank
time.
you.
You have become you are also in my personal journey one of the key people, and I will say I have two, and that even though you don't know it or we didn't spend, I am not working directly with you, but just your perspective the first time we talk really opened for me a new gate, and I have to be very grateful for that. And I continue having pain, but I have to say that I already perceive a little bit of the light of that by sometimes just when I realize that these emotions that I am suppressing or whatever, like just acknowledging that. And sometimes you can feel immediately a relief in the pain. Like I
Yes.
continue having chronic pain because in, I can't say I have been 1 year without pain, but I experience short-term reliefs by applying these principles, and that
Beautiful.
give a lot of hope also. Like, okay, this is happening. This is really happening. So
Yes.
yeah,
Very good, Alvaro. I'm very happy for you.
thank
Yeah.
you, Ralph.
At this point, for you specifically, and for anyone else who is on this part of the journey, just notice the difference outside of you when you're pain free. Just notice where your mind goes when you're pain free, outside of you. So instead of going, oh my God, my pain is going away, I'm feeling better, you go, well, wait, what am I focused on? And then you start to notice where your joy is. What brings you joy, what is genuinely yours, and then when the pain comes back, notice what's different outside of you. You'll notice that things are scary, things are, and oh, there it is. And you start to notice the difference between the healthy version of you and the version of you that is in pain. You start to see it. And then from there, you can take the work a little further.
That's something that you mentioned at the beginning that I really take note about. That did you say about yourself? No, that when because we suppress the emotion, maybe we don't realize if we are in that depressed state, but
Yeah,
you can see that you are observing reality in a different way. Like maybe you are making,
yeah,
for me, I become more social, I become more talkative, I want to dance, and when I am more in the other state, I am become more introvert, and I want to be at home,
yes,
and I want to be reading,
yes,
and I only
yes,
see the bad things of people. And with the in the other state, I am
yes,
like, oh my God, I love everyone. I want to,
Yes,
it's
yes.
crazy. It's crazy. Reality is a mirror, is reflecting our inner world. It is. Well, Ralph, thank you very much, and
My pleasure, brother.
I will love to, I don't know, to see you in the future, and to maybe 1 year from now, who knows, like you have another book, or you are helping more people, or we find a way of bringing this knowledge to more people. It will be a gift. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
my pleasure.
Okay.